Alice is 16 years old, and she has never once questioned God. She sits in the front pew of her Catholic high school's chapel, hands folded, eyes forward, lips moving through a prayer she has memorized so completely it no longer needs thought. Her uniform is pressed. Her expression is earnest. She is, by every outward measure, exactly who her school wants her to be: obedient, devout, and pleasantly unaware of what hides underneath. The school is a small Catholic institution in a quiet Midwestern suburb, the kind of place where sin feels abstract and impossible because everyone around you looks so clean. The hallways smell like floor wax and Lysol. The teachers speak in measured, careful tones. Crucifixes hang on every wall. The rules are not posted. They are simply absorbed the way children absorb language. You know them before you are ever told them. Alice knows all the rules. She knows that lust is a sin. She knows impure thoughts must be confessed. She knows the body is a temple. She knows all of this the way she knows her multiplication tables, correctly, automatically, without ever feeling it land in her chest and mean something real. And then one evening, alone in her bedroom, she gets on AOL. She is not looking for anything. She is just there, the way teenagers are just there, drifting through the early internet with the casual curiosity of someone who does not yet understand they are standing at the edge of something. A chat message pops up from a boy at school. His name is Wade. He is handsome in that effortless way that makes 16-year-old girls forget to breathe. He types something to her, then he types something else, and then he sends her something she was absolutely not prepared for. It is a question, explicit, blunt, the kind of thing that would have made her teachers reach for a wooden ruler. Alice stares at the screen. Her face goes through several expressions in quick succession: shock, confusion, and then, terrifyingly, curiosity. She sits with it longer than she should. She closes the laptop. She opens the laptop again. This is where Alice's story really begins. Not with the chat, not with the question, but with what happens in the seconds after she closes the laptop for the second time, the sensation she cannot name, the warmth she was never taught to acknowledge, the awareness that her body responded to something her theology absolutely forbids. She doesn't have a word for this. Her school gave her plenty of words for sin, but very few for the ordinary, confusing mechanics of being human. The next morning at school, the rumor is already moving. Wade has apparently told someone that he and Alice did something online together, something intimate, something scandalous. He has used a specific word. That word is now spreading through the hallways the way rumors spread in small Catholic schools, like wildfire through a room full of paper. By second period, people are looking at Alice differently. By lunch, a girl named Laura, composed, popular, quietly ruthless, approaches her with a smile that is too controlled to be friendly. "So you and Wade," Laura says. It is not really a question. Alice opens her mouth and closes it. She does not know what Wade said. She does not know what she is being accused of. All she knows is that she is suddenly standing in the middle of a story she did not write, with a reputation she did not earn, and the guilt sitting in her chest is already enormous, even though she is not entirely sure what she is guilty of. She goes to her theology teacher, Father Murphy. He has kind eyes and a measured voice, and the practiced patience of someone who has heard many confessions. Alice cannot quite bring herself to say what she needs to say. She speaks in abstractions, impure thoughts, wrong feelings, things she cannot control. Father Murphy listens carefully and tells her this: the thought itself is the sin. Entertaining it is the same as doing it. The soul must be constantly vigilant. You cannot let your guard down, not even for a second, because the enemy is patient and the flesh is weak. Alice walks out of that meeting feeling significantly worse than when she walked in. She goes home that night and Googles things she has never Googled before. Each search makes her more confused. Each answer raises 3 more questions. She is trying to understand what is happening inside her, trying to find a map for territory no one at her school has ever admitted exists. The internet gives her information but not comfort. The information confirms that what she felt was real, ordinary, biological. The comfort is harder to find in a framework that has already told her the feeling itself is corrupt. What nobody in her life has prepared Alice for is this: the distance between what you believe and what you feel is sometimes so vast that standing in the middle of it, alone at 16 in a quiet Midwestern bedroom, is one of the loneliest places in the world, and she is standing there now. There is a retreat coming up, a weekend spiritual event called Kirkos, held at a lakeside camp run by the school. The upperclassmen talk about it the way they talk about college, like something that changes you, like something you come back from different. Alice signs up. She needs something. She is not sure what, but she signs up. She packs her bag on a Friday afternoon, folds her uniform, tucks in her Bible, and tells herself this is exactly what she needs: a reset, a return to the clarity she has lost somewhere between that chat window and this creeping, unwelcome awareness of herself as a person with a body. She gets in the van. She smiles at the other students. She does not yet know what she's about to find at that retreat. What is waiting for her not in the chapel or the prayer circles, but in the shadows just past the edge of where she is supposed to look. Drop a comment. Where are you watching this from and what time is it there? Let me know below. Kirko sits on the edge of a lake surrounded by pine trees, the kind of setting that photographs beautifully and means business spiritually. There are cabins, a dining hall, a large open chapel space with no walls, just a roof and wooden beams and the sound of wind moving through trees that have been here longer than any of these teenagers doubts. Alice arrives and immediately feels the weight shift slightly. The atmosphere at Kirkos is orchestrated with precision. The retreat leaders, older students given titles and responsibilities, move through the camp with the quiet confidence of people who know something the newcomers don't yet. There is singing, there is group prayer. There is the specific emotional warmth of being surrounded by people who all believe the same things and express it openly, without embarrassment, with their hands raised and their eyes closed and their faces tilted upward. For Alice, it is briefly, genuinely comforting. She is assigned a cabin group. She meets Father Murphy again. He is here too, in a different role, softer and somehow more personal. There is also a woman named Chris, one of the retreat's lay leaders, who has the energy of someone who has found their purpose and holds it lightly, not like a weapon. The other students around Alice are familiar faces from school, including Laura, who is one of the retreat leaders, which Alice finds slightly destabilizing. The first day is structured around what the retreat calls opening your heart. There are sessions about God's love, about the grace of confession, about the particular mercy extended to young people who are still figuring out who they are. Alice participates fully. She is trying. She is genuinely, earnestly trying to feel what the sessions are describing, the peace, the certainty, the sense of being seen and loved and forgiven completely. But something keeps pulling at the edge of it. She cannot stop thinking about what Father Murphy told her, that the thought itself is the sin, that there is no safe internal space, no private version of herself that is allowed to simply exist without judgment. Every time she starts to feel the warmth of the retreat, the thought returns. But what about what you felt? What about what you Googled? What about the fact that you are here right now and your body is still doing exactly what your theology says it shouldn't? She confides in no one. She smiles in the group sessions. She sings the songs. That night, unable to sleep, Alice wanders. She is not supposed to be outside the cabin after lights out. She knows this. But the cabin feels airless and the lake is right there, silver and still in the dark, and she needs a moment where she is not performing serenity for an audience of people who seem to have achieved it effortlessly. She walks down toward the water, and that's when she sees something she was absolutely not supposed to see. Two people at the edge of the dock. People she recognizes, not teenagers, adults. People with authority in this space. She cannot see them clearly at first. Then she freezes. She backs up into the shadow of a tree and stands there, not breathing, while her entire framework for what this retreat is, what these people are, reorganizes itself silently and without permission. She goes back to her cabin. She lies down. She stares at the ceiling. The next morning, everything looks the same. The singing sounds the same. The prayers feel the same. Father Murphy speaks with the same measured authority. Chris moves through the dining hall with the same warm smile. Laura runs her small group session with the same polished confidence. And Alice sits in the middle of all of it with the knowledge of what she saw sitting in her chest like a stone, heavy, private, impossible to put down. Here is where the script asks you to understand something important about the psychology of institutions. When we are raised inside a system that demands moral perfection, we are not simply taught to behave correctly. We are taught that we are uniquely broken when we don't. The shame runs inward, always. The failing is always personal, always spiritual, never structural. This is why what Alice saw the previous night is so disorienting. Not just because it was shocking, but because it reveals something the institution has no language for. That the people holding the standard are not keeping it either. She does not know what to do with this. She tries confession. She goes to Father Murphy not to confess what she saw, but to confess what she has been feeling, the original guilt, the impure thoughts, the search history, the confusion. She sits across from him in the small wooden confessional booth they have set up in one of the cabins, and she tries again to find the words. Father Murphy listens. He is kind, he is pastoral, and then he says something that lands with unexpected weight. He tells her she is not alone in her struggle, that all young people face this, that the church's guidance exists precisely because the flesh is difficult and the enemy is cunning. He speaks with such easy authority that Alice almost believes the guidance will help. But she is carrying something he doesn't know she is carrying. She leaves the confessional and walks directly into the lunch line and stands next to a girl named Nina, who is funny and irreverent in the way of someone who has not yet fully internalized that irreverence is being monitored here. Nina makes a joke under her breath, something mildly profane, and Alice laughs before she can stop herself. The laugh is real. It sounds different from the sounds she has been making all weekend. Nina notices. "You okay?" Nina asks. "Fine," Alice says. But she is not fine. She is standing in the middle of a retreat designed to purify her, holding evidence of hypocrisy, drowning in shame about thoughts that are developmentally ordinary, surrounded by people performing certainty with a fluency she cannot match. She is not fine. She is something much more complicated and much more real than fine. And the retreat still has a full day left to run. The final evening of Kirkos is designed to be its emotional peak. This is the session everyone has been building toward, the one the upperclassmen, referenced with knowing looks, the one that is meant to break you open in the best possible way and fill the space with something holy. The camp gathers in the open chapel as the sun drops behind the pine trees and the air turns cool. There are candles, there is music, slow, acoustic, genuinely beautiful. The kind of music that would move you anywhere, in any context, regardless of what you believe. Alice sits in the middle of it and feels, despite everything, something real. Not certainty, not the clean resolution the retreat promised, but something, a softening, a moment of quiet in which the noise of the weekend falls away and she is simply a person sitting in the dark, among other people, all of them carrying things they haven't said out loud, all of them hoping the candles mean something. The retreat leader stands up and gives the closing talk. It is about grace, about being known completely, every secret, every failure, every private shame, and loved anyway. About the freedom that comes from bringing darkness into light. The talk is well delivered. Parts of it are genuinely moving. Alice is crying before she realizes it, which surprises her because she had been bracing herself. And then the invitation comes. Anyone who wants to share something, anything they've been carrying, anything they want to release, is welcome to come forward. It is completely voluntary. The retreat leader says this twice. Completely voluntary. What happens next is what Alice will turn over in her mind for days. One by one, people get up. They go to the front. They say things, real things, private things, things that cost something to say in front of 20 other people in a candlelit room. Some of them cry. Some of them are shaking. The room holds them with the specific tenderness of people who are also, in this moment, afraid. It is one of the most human things Alice has ever seen happen in real time. Not because of the theology, because of the vulnerability. Alice does not go up. She cannot. The thing she is carrying is not the thing this room is asking for. The thing she is carrying is what she saw on the dock, which is not her sin to confess, but someone else's. And the thing underneath that, the original confusion which she has still not found the language for. She sits and watches and feels the strange double sensation of being moved and being outside of it simultaneously. After the session ends, and the candles are blown out, and people are filing back toward the cabins in small, quiet groups, something happens that Alice does not expect. She ends up near a vending machine. She is alone, hungry, needing something ordinary after hours of intensity. She is standing there with quarters in her hand when a door opens nearby and she hears voices. She is not eavesdropping, not exactly. She is just present, in the wrong place at the wrong moment again. And what she hears is a conversation between two of the retreat's leaders, adults. People who spent this entire weekend in positions of moral authority over a group of teenagers. They are talking about something private, something that has nothing to do with God and everything to do with being human. Alice stands very still with her quarters in her hand. The conversation ends. The voices move away. She is alone again. She buys her snack. She sits down on the concrete step outside the vending machine and eats it in the dark. She is not devastated exactly. She is something quieter than devastated, something more like recalibrating. Because here is what Alice is slowly, uncomfortably understanding. The people who gave her the rulebook are not following the rulebook either. This does not mean the rules are wrong. It does not mean faith is hollow. But it means something important and uncomfortable about the distance between the standard that gets held over teenagers and the standard that actually governs the adults who hold it. She goes back to her cabin and lies down, and this time she does not stare at the ceiling. She falls asleep almost immediately. The kind of sleep that comes after something inside you stops fighting and just finally rests. The last morning of Kirkos is quiet, packing, breakfast, the drive back, the trees out the window. The other students around her talking about what they felt, what changed, what they're taking home. Alice listens. She nods. She is polite. But something is different now. Not broken. Different. She went to this retreat carrying guilt about her own interior life and looking for someone to tell her she was still acceptable. She is leaving with something harder and stranger and ultimately more useful. The suspicion that everyone in that room was carrying something they weren't saying. That the performance of certainty she has been measuring herself against is exactly that, a performance. That she is not uniquely broken. She is just honest. Back home, Alice does what 16-year-olds do when they are processing something enormous and have nowhere to put it. She goes online. She returns to the AOL chat. She finds an unexpected conversation, a stranger, a woman who asks Alice what is going on. And Alice, perhaps because the stranger is exactly that, a stranger with no stake in who Alice is supposed to be, actually tells her. Not everything, but enough. She describes the confusion, the guilt, the retreat, the things she cannot reconcile. She does not name names. She does not give specifics. She just describes the general shape of what she is carrying. The woman who Alice does not know and will never meet says something simple. She says, "You're not alone." This is not a theological argument. It is not a counterposition. It is not a carefully reasoned case for or against anything Alice believes. It is just 3 words. But Alice sits with them in a way she has not sat with anything all weekend. Because the retreat said the same thing. You are not alone. And in that context, it meant God sees your sin. The stranger means something different. The stranger means the confusion you feel is human. Other people feel it too. You are not uniquely corrupted. These are not the same message. But Alice is beginning to understand that she needs both. She goes to school the following week, and something has shifted in how she moves through the hallways. Not dramatically. She is not a different person. She still goes to Mass. She still folds her uniform. She still does her homework and sits in theology class and listens to Father Murphy with genuine attention. But she is watching now in a way she wasn't before. She is noticing. She notices Laura. Laura, composed, controlled, the girl who seemed to have it most together at the retreat. The girl whose confidence Alice had quietly envied does something one afternoon that is so small it almost isn't anything, a flicker, a moment of something unguarded that passes across her face when she thinks no one is looking. Alice sees it. She doesn't say anything. She just sees it. She notices Father Murphy. The way he talks about grace has not changed. The words are the same. The cadence is the same. But Alice is now able to hold 2 things at once, that the words can be true and that the person saying them is also imperfect, also navigating something, also human, in ways he has not advertised. This is not cynicism. What Alice is developing is something harder to name and more durable than cynicism, a kind of clear-eyed compassion, an ability to see people fully rather than flatly. Her school taught her to see people as souls in various states of grace or disgrace. She is beginning to see them as people. She still has the original problem, the confusion about her own body, her own desires, her own interior life, that has not resolved itself. It is still there, still occasionally flooding her with shame when she least expects it. But the shame has a slightly different quality now. It is still uncomfortable, but it is less catastrophic. Because Alice has updated one crucial belief without even articulating it explicitly. She is not the only one this is happening to. She finds a book. It is not a book that her school would approve of, and she finds it with a furtiveness that she is aware is slightly ironic given everything she has learned about the adults around her. The book is clinical, not spiritual. It explains the biology of what she has been experiencing. It uses words her theology class would not use. It presents the information without judgment, the way a textbook presents the phases of the moon. Alice reads it twice. She does not abandon her faith. This is important to understand. She is not a character in a story about losing religion. She is a character in a story about something more subtle and frankly more interesting. About learning to hold faith and reality in the same hands without dropping either one. She still believes. She is just beginning to believe differently, with more room in it, with more honesty in it. She goes back to the computer one more time. She opens the chat. The woman is there again. They talk for a long time. Alice asks questions she has been carrying for weeks. The woman answers without alarm, without judgment, without the faint undertone of disappointment Alice has come to expect when these subjects come up. They talk about faith. They talk about bodies. They talk about the gap between what we are taught to feel and what we actually feel. Does it go away? Alice types. The confusion. No. The woman writes back. But you get better at being confused. Alice almost laughs. It is the most honest thing anyone has said to her in months. You just spent the last 20 minutes here with Alice, inside her silence, her confusion, her slow reckoning. Here's the truth. 99 out of 100 viewers watch all the way through and never subscribe. Maybe you even felt something in that vending machine scene. Maybe it reminded you of something. Subscribing costs you nothing. It's one tap, completely free. But it means you're not just a viewer. You're someone who shows up for stories that actually matter. Stories about the things nobody says out loud. That's what we do here. Don't just watch, be here. Here's the thing about secrets in small communities. They do not stay buried. They compress. They become pressure, internal, invisible, immense. And eventually, in one way or another, they surface. Not always dramatically. Sometimes they surface the way water surfaces through concrete. Slowly, quietly, undeniable. Alice comes back to school after Kirkos a week later, and the rumors about her have not entirely died. The word Wade used still floats at the edge of certain conversations, attached to her name like a tag she cannot remove. She has not confronted Wade. She has not explained herself to Laura or anyone else. She has been carrying the accusation with a silence that some people read as guilt and others read as dignity, depending on who they are and what they need from the story. But something else is beginning to happen. Small things. Cracks in the surface. Things that would be invisible to anyone who wasn't watching as closely as Alice now is. She is in the hallway one morning when she sees Father Murphy coming out of a room he is not supposed to be in. He does not see her. The door closes. He walks the other direction. It is a brief, unremarkable moment, or it would be to anyone who hadn't stood next to a vending machine in the dark at Kirkos and heard what Alice heard. She watches him walk away, and she feels the knowledge settle into her body the way knowledge settles when it has finally found its place. Not as an explosion, but as a quiet landing. She is not angry. She is something more complicated than angry. She sees Laura in the chapel one afternoon, alone, praying. Not the performative prayer of the group session, something private, urgent, with a quality of desperation Alice recognizes because she has felt it herself. Laura does not know anyone is watching. Her composure is completely gone. She is just a person who is afraid of something and is praying the way you pray when you have nowhere else to take. Alice watches for a moment. Then she backs away and leaves Laura alone. She thinks about all of it on the walk home, the entire architecture of her school, her faith, her community. She thinks about the rules and who holds them and what it costs to hold them, and who gets punished when they fall short. She thinks about the fact that the first person to get punished when the rumor about her and Wade began spreading was her. Not Wade. Her. She did not chase anything. She received a chat message, but she is the one whose name is attached to a word she didn't choose. She is 16. She understands this at 16 with a clarity that should embarrass the adults in the room. She goes to Mass on Sunday. She sits in the pew. The ritual moves around her, the incense, the bells, the carefully spoken words that have been spoken in this form for centuries. She participates. She kneels when she is supposed to kneel. She rises when she is supposed to rise. Her lips move through the responses. But something is different now inside the ritual. She is not doing it out of fear. She is not doing it to stay on the right side of something that is watching her with a clipboard. She is doing it because, and this surprises her, she actually finds something in it. Not the certainty she was promised, not the clean resolution, but something real, the communal act of saying, I am trying. The admission, built into the structure of the Mass itself, that humans are imperfect and need something outside themselves. That is not nothing. That is actually something she can believe. She is still confused about her body. She probably will be for a while. She is still carrying the things she saw at Kirkos, the dock, the vending machine, Father Murphy's door. She will carry those things for a long time. But she is no longer carrying them alone, and she is no longer carrying them as evidence that she is uniquely corrupt. She is carrying them as evidence that everyone, without exception, is carrying something. This is the thing that her school never taught her, the thing that her theology classes circled around without ever landing on directly. Grace is not the reward at the end of the struggle. It is the ground you're standing on in the middle of it. Imperfection is not the obstacle to community. It is, in fact, the only thing that makes community possible. You cannot truly be with other people if you are pretending to be something you aren't. And you cannot truly be with yourself if you are punishing yourself for being human. Alice does not have a grand revelation. She does not march to the front of the school and announce what she knows. She does not confront Father Murphy or Laura or Wade. She is not that kind of character, and this is not that kind of story. This is a quieter story, which is part of why it is more true. She goes home after Mass. She eats lunch with her parents. She does her homework. She opens her laptop, and on impulse, she deletes the history. Not because she is ashamed of the searching, but because she is done needing to hide. She closes the laptop. She goes to her window and looks outside for a minute. The neighborhood is ordinary and still. Someone is mowing a lawn 2 houses over. A dog barks somewhere. The sky is the specific blue of a Midwestern late afternoon, a color that has no spiritual significance whatsoever and is simply, undeniably beautiful. Alice stands there and looks at it. This is what healing looks like at 16 in a small Midwestern suburb when no one is watching, a girl at a window, holding contradictions, not resolving them, just holding them, knowing that the confusion does not disqualify her, knowing that the people she looked up to are imperfect, and that this does not destroy what was real about what they gave her, knowing that she is not the exception, knowing that everyone, in their own way, is right here with her. She does not have all the answers. She may never have all the answers, but she has something better than answers. She has permission, quiet, hard-won, finally real, to be exactly who she is. And for the first time in a long time, that is enough. Alice walked into that retreat trying to fix herself and walked out realizing she was never the one who was broken. If this story made you feel something, that pull of recognition, the exhale at the end, then you already know what this channel is about. Stories that go deeper than the surface. Stories that trust you to handle the real thing. Subscribe. Not for more videos, but because you're someone who stayed until the quiet parts. That's rare. We want you here.